if you are working a job, it doesn't matter. If I'm working a job, if you can put a pink uniform on me, I really don't care. Just because I'm a contractor, I need to do this for an amount of time, really don't care. But if you really love your job, if it's your career, if it's your calling, then it's not like civilian military life or anything like that. You're always in some kind of a, well, I'm gonna say weird mindset where you just want to be comfortable. You want to be comfortable in when you're not working and when you are working.
Okay.
And then if you have the equipment from the, let's say, lowest bidder, that everybody thinks that humans are like, I don't know, imps or or giants.
Yeah.
Like, why do I have my knees here and not here? Like when somebody is like deciding how to make garments, make it as cheap as possible, but as most uncomfortable as possible. So that's usually what military issues you. So I liked to take care of myself, and most of the time I persuaded that we got better gear, or at least just buy your own gear. When somebody says, yeah, you shouldn't buy your own gear, yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but if you love your job, if you love your life, and if you like doing what you do, you're just gonna take care of yourself and you're just gonna buy it.
Hi everybody, and welcome to a very special ufprogear 30. Today, you won't believe it, but there's no Armin with us. However, I got a good friend with me, Luka Zorenč from the military. And today we'll be discussing medical issues and medical profession in law enforcement and military. So, hi Luka.
Hey.
Very nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, always. Why don't we start with a little bit of your background and just tell everybody where you're coming from, what your experiences are, and
I'm a former Special Forces medic from the Slovenian Armed Forces. Worked 12 years in the military, most of the time in SF as a medic. Before that, by civilian profession, I'm a veterinarian technician. But now I'm working in a private sector as a consultant for security and, let's say, medicine in bad places.
Nice. That's at least for me, very impressive background. But going back to our topic, I mean, today we'll be talking about your core business, and that's medical assistance and medical treatment going to the law enforcement. How do you become let's say a medic in the military? What does it take?
I mean, to become a medic in the military, I mean, depends. Sometimes you're just a chosen volunteer.
Yeah, there we go.
As things happen in the military, like who has a sister, everybody raises their hands like, okay, we have medics now.
There we go.
So that's one way. The second way is that you have some kind of a background, which is like in medicine. I am a veterinarian technician prior to the military, so somebody decided that fools and horses are the same, so medicine also is the same for dogs and military. Sometimes it is the same. Yeah. So for me, it was I was chosen because of my background and just because of my personal traits, which were I like taking care of people, not in mafia way when somebody takes care of someone, but
so no horse heads in the bed and stuff like that.
It's not Friday yet.
Sorry.
Cheers.
Nice. And going back to that, so what's the difference between, let's say, a normal medic and a medic in an SF unit? Doesn't really matter if we're talking about law enforcement or military, but what is the basic difference?
I mean, the basic difference is, there's not a black and white answer. It's more 50 shades of medical gray. Just because if you're an SF medic, most of the time there's a longer pipeline to become, as it is a selection process, basic specialization, yada yada yada, and then you become a medic. But an SF medic is more just than a medic. This is like your specialty, but you still need to have basics about everything, weapons and tactics, comms, demo, etc. So
this is kind of like on top.
Yes, that's just like the sugar coating on the cake. As if you're like a conventional medic, this is your specialty, and most of the time you will do medical stuff. When somebody asks me like who's better, an SF medic or a regular medic, I'm just gonna ask like depends where you want him, just because I will always say that just like a normal medic that is let's say 8-station battalion or in a role environment, and he's been doing 10 years only that, yeah, he's better at normal medical stuff by far than me that doing, let's say, 1 or 2 months of specialization in some kind of hospital or training, etc. So I'm gonna give my hats off to them. When it comes for them to walk, shoot, maneuver, I'd say most of the time not so much, because sometimes you see them like big hefty guys that work in 8 stations. Not everybody, but like you know who you are.
Yeah. I totally understand this. Yeah, and this probably brings us to my another question. Today I'll probably be full of questions. Is going back to what you were saying. So that probably makes also a difference at the weapon systems that you guys carry. I mean, normal, I'm not going to say normal medic, but a medic in a regular unit versus the SF medic. There is a probable difference in the markings. You guys probably don't mark yourself with a big red cross on a white background and stuff.
I mean, technically, if you want to if you want to attract unwanted attention, you want that big backpack with a red cross, or being a comms guy, you want that backpack with a big antenna. If I'm an enemy, I'm like, I think that one is important, so I'll shoot.
Yeah, that one kind of stands out.
Yeah, so I rather not do that, but I always stood out just because you have that backpack, and everybody that has like more IQ than room temperature will find out that, okay, probably there's medical stuff there, just because it's just different equipment. And the more you get to know every military in the world, everybody has the same problems with being a medic. You have your gear that is mission sensitive, that you need to have, and then you have your admin gear, just like to change of clothes, some food, water, yada yada yada. And then you have a backpack full of medical stuff, and then where to put it. You're like,
and this is what, because we're rolling along, and this is, I mean, you were talking about medics, especially in the special forces units, law enforcement or military. You actually do this on top of something else, let's say being a team member in a fire team. So how does the gear work? Because I think you probably are wearing or loading more or less medical gear. So where's the rest of your gear? The one that you were mentioning, I mean, the mission critical gear.
You have to have a lot of ingenuity. And then when somebody asks, like, how does a special forces guy look like? I'm usually gonna say it's a lot of duct tape. Just because you have to do a lot of accommodation. I have yet not found the, let's say, the perfect backpack that works for me, that it's modular, that it's for any kind of conditions. You always have your stuff laid down on the floor and you're like just making weird noises, like, I'm gonna stuff all that in. Okay, and then, yeah, I don't need that water. I have saline. I can drink saline. It's okay. So yeah, it's always you always need to do certain adjustments. You always need to cut certain corners. Like in a perfect world, you have a lot of stuff and everything fits and it's super nice. It's like the perfect Instagram shot or for Facebook, like everybody's still like, oh my God, it's so awesome. But then when you put everything in the backpack, even if it fits, and then you need something from the backpack, Murphy's Law, it's at the very bottom.
It's, of course.
At where the zip, you cannot get it, so you have to destroy everything and then do it at night after, let's say, 2-3 days of really almost non-sleep, and they're like, yeah, you need to find it, blindfolded. Shut up.
So it's the same struggle as let's say in the normal units, what the grunts are facing, just where to stack my stuff.
Pretty much. The conceptual, everybody has the same problems, just like the equipment is, just, let's say, nicer and more cooler.
Definitely. Yeah, and bringing us to that, I mean, what were I know you guys went through specific training for medics, and I know those stories are really, really nice from that. What is it? The SF medic training in the States. You have any? Share with us something.
I mean, depends depends what you think that's interesting or not. I mean, in training, yeah, sure, it was really was a lot of fun. No, actually it wasn't fun because you needed just to study all the time, and also because English is not my first language. When you have to translate everything, it's also pretty intensive. When it goes into practical skills, it becomes more fun, but those are like conversations you cannot share behind the dinner table. Like I have, when I tell my stories, just being in a hospital, volunteering and with the paramedics, working in veterinary clinics.
Okay.
When somebody, like when we're with a group of guys that all team members, all the same same mindset, they're like, oh my God, they're laughing, they're like enthusiastically listening, and then you see left and right from us people that are just enjoying dinner, like. We pay for it, the taxpayer pay for it, for that kind of training. So those stories are quite gruesome, and I think that you will get pulled off of social media from just gonna say, yeah, I got, the best part was, it's not the best, like there are 10,000 stories, but I remember that I was taking care of one convict. He just got stabbed a couple of times. Minor,
just a couple of times.
Minor, let's say minor. I mean, how can you get little stab, like big stab? Yeah, but there was nothing serious, so I needed to take off the stitches. He was still in handcuff, full-blown tattooed and everything.
Nice.
And then I was there and I introduced myself. Hey, my name is Luka. I'm gonna help
be your medic for today.
Take off your stitches out. And he's like screaming at me, hey, 𝗖𝗁𝗂, like what? Because I don't have insurance, I will get this Dracula doctor here working on me. Like, hey, this is the most amount your coverage will pay, so you get me. Like, I am Vlad the Impaler, if you want. But usually I try to smoothen the deal with these kind of people because I literally, a couple of guys, I asked, so I am here to remove the stitches.
Yeah.
You are not here to make me get stitches, so please do not stab me. Okay, are we good? Comprei, padre? Good?
There we go.
Usually they start laughing and they said no. If they were just looking at me, I'm like, I'm gonna need some help.
Well, good. Yeah, I know those stories are very fun to listen to. Ooh. But going back to everything that we were talking about, I know a lot of military and law enforcement units put a lot of pressure on their guys in terms of medical treatment when we're discussing being proficient in it, from the first guy in the fire team to the medic, all the way up to the medic. I know everybody has to at least know how to provide first aid, but saying that, I know we always had let's say, I'm not going to say an issue, but always a big discussion that was all over the units is where exactly should we wear our first aid kits and everything that goes with it, like tourniquets and everything, on a normal soldier to help out medics, and of course my buddy soldier that's probably going to be the first guy there to help me out if he can, otherwise I'm going to be the one. So, but is there like a magic wand? Is there like, can I pick your brain in what do you think about this? Because we were always struggling. Where should our first aid kit go? Should we have the tourniquet down on our neck, leg pockets, or up here, or just, you have any thoughts on that?
I mean,
what is your experience here?
Tactics are like assholes. Everybody has one. So I truly do not believe in these kind of SOPs. I mean, I believe in them in specific unit group SOPs, yes. But that's not gonna hold water in any kind of multinational environment. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody says, yeah, everybody should have a tourniquet, left shoulder pocket. Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. And then somebody's going to put it on the right shoulder pocket just because
he's a left-handed, yeah. Let's say.
And then somebody says you put it in the left calf pocket or right or something like that. Yeah. Sure. And then somebody says, no, you shouldn't put it in there just because if you're stepped on a landmine, you're going to lose the tourniquet. And then one best comeback I have from one of my friends, I'm going to have two tourniquets, left and right leg. Like, why two tourniquets? Oh, you should have two tourniquets, but I just wanted to ask him, why two? Yeah, if I get one blown off, I stay on the right side. Yeah, but when you get two legs blown off, then you don't need tourniquets for me. I'm not gonna survive that. I'm not gonna be humping. I'm not Lieutenant Dan. So those SOPs, yes, sure, in small units, in one unit it can hold merit, but units from units are going to be always different. And then somebody says, yeah, the SOPs, everybody should have a tourniquet here. Yeah, perfect. But then when you're going to be treating a fellow partner forced or the wounded combatant, like, you just want them to have a tourniquet on themselves. And when you're stressed, usually you're not going to think like, oh, probably he's wearing a different uniform, but they have the same SOP, the tourniquet is going to be, no, it's not going to hold water. So you just want for everybody to have a first aid kit on themselves. That's for me, that's the best standard. Just have something on yourself.
How did you tackle that as a medic? I mean, putting on your gear. I know we talked about your backpack, and you had a ton of other stuff that had to be stored away. what came into play here? How did you tackle that one?
Oh, just ingenuity. I mean, you always ask yourself, what kind of equipment do I need for the overall mission, like the conceptual? And then what equipment do I need in the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, first 15 minutes? So first 5 minutes, what do you need are the things on yourself. If I need the equipment immediately, I shouldn't have it in the backpack, in the very back.
Where Murphy knows where it is.
I mean, you're doing triage of potential threat that might come. Or just like at the end, you might just not need medical stuff, you just need a sleeping bag, and usually it's in the very back, because the soldiers, we sleep last usually. So when you're thinking about equipment, you always, at least I was thinking, what will I need in immediate contact or immediate execution of when I'm on the objective. So I was always thinking, when you're planning, you're thinking for all the steps ahead that potentially can be, but most of the time when you're working something, you're always just thinking, okay, if I'm in the vehicle, what will happen when the vehicle stops? I will need to go there to the objective. So you're always planning, okay, I'm in the vehicle, it's 30 minutes is going to be, and 5 minutes before disembarkment, I will need to do this and this and that. When I go out, I'll go towards the objective, then I have demos. No, demos he will have with a bit of a free flow. So yeah, I was thinking, okay, if the demo guy is going to be in front of me, will be placing the demo charges, etc. So, but I was just thinking one step ahead, and then the second step was just like gray area. Because my mental capacity, and anybody in mental capacity, is just like
to the closest target.
Only closest target. You cannot. We are not women that we can multitask 5 different stuff.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
So 5 things. You can do only 1 thing really good or 3 things badly.
Yeah.
So I was always thinking, I need to do 1 thing perfect. When I disembark, I do this and this and that. Okay. And then when I'm here, I'm really thinking, okay, what do I need to do? Continue. Okay. When more drills comes, things become simultaneously. You don't get so caught up on the minutia of things, and you're focused only on the or let's say on the hard points that need to be executed. Who goes left and right, how you position your weapon, which corner, which path you take. That comes with training, with stress inoculation, more and more.
Well, that's a big word.
Yeah.
Inoculation. Okay.
I'm medic.
Yeah.
We like to inoculate people.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. And when you were talking about those, let's say, closest targets to tackle, what probably you always had on your mind, your secondary, or let's say the icing on top, as you put it, if something happens, the medical part, how are you going to take care of it? But going on the other side, so is there anything, let's say, I know we had a lot of guys that had standing medical conditions like allergies, like, of course, there's stuff medics need to know before they start treating the victim, like their blood type and everything else. Did you find that like readily available when you were doing your job, or is there any preference you had? Because I know we always were missing like half of the information that we were supposed to have for the medics ourselves, because the dog tag usually doesn't have that information.
For, let's say, blood types, that's just cool, and people likes to put it on, but let's say statistically,
it's another
20% of information is incorrect. So doesn't matter. Before we'll give blood, we'll type it. So, and also,
oh, you type it.
You need to type it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a standard. I mean, the Tor project for giving blood has more specifics, but that's unit preference. That doesn't matter. But that's just a cool part of it. And most people carry it, and maybe they don't even have the capacity to give a blood transfusion, and then they just have it just because it's cool. So a lot of people can make an extra buck for having a patch. Personally, for that blood typing, I never liked it that much. For the allergies, yeah, it is quite important. Most of the time, people know if they have any kind of allergies. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the developed world, I mean.
Yep.
And then if, by God, that person is there in the field, unconscious, dying, and doesn't have a tag that that has allergies or not, I always had the mindset, you cannot kill a dead man, so just throw everything in him that you think rationally that you need to give him to save him. So yeah, you cannot kill a dead man. But if most of the time those people are not alone, there's somebody next to them, and sometimes they have that certain kind of information. Okay, don't give him penicillin, don't give him this and that. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, well, that's good. Very good to know, because you're probably more aware of this as I am, because lower down you go, the more strict is this. And I see today we're getting very thirsty, so can I interest you in another one?
I was thinking when I will get one more. I was like,
yeah, I'm not really a good host.
This is how you treat all your guests.
Yes.
Armin.
Yeah, can we get another one? I have a little bit of Italian descent, so I can use also my hands. Hopefully you understand.
Such a beautiful man.
Of course.
No wonder he worked for ufpro.
That's one of the characteristics you have to have in working at ufpro. Very proud of that. But leaving jokes to the side, I always wondered one thing. I mean, when a medic approaches a casualty on the battlefield, I know you guys are very big on cutting all our very nice clothes off. Not really sure what's that all about. Is it it's like, I don't want to say sexual thing, but I just said it. No, again, leaving jokes aside, but how do you approach this? Is there a system to cutting off the clothes? I know you guys are looking for injuries, but is it always done in the same way, or do you tailor it depending on where the injury is, or how do you go about that?
It's not medicine is not a black and white answer. It's like I said before, 50 shades of gray. When somebody is there's like a saying, the best patient is a naked patient, just because you can clearly assess all his injuries that are visually apparent. Yes, perfect. But if you're gonna treat everybody the same, let's say he just breaks his ankle, or he has a cut, or he has a gunshot wound in the ankle, and then you start cutting off his upper clothes, upper body armor, or something like that, it's kind of a weird way to tackle that problem, and your commander is like rightly is going to be pissed and salty on you. So how to tackle that? It's just like individually. If the situation is really bad, he's torn to bits, unconscious, things are flying all around, unconscious, you want to do as much aid as possible. Yes, cut everything off. If I'm gonna say, yeah, you start with the neck, go down to the, what's this in English?
It's called an arm.
That's arm, yeah. We'll give them
The,
leg and an
the
arm.
sleeve. Are you
The
talking
sleeve,
about?
yes.
Okay, we're talking about the sleeve. Okay.
Eureka! Moment. Down the sleeve, so then you can at least pull away a bit. Perfect. Yeah, that's one way of tackling that beast. But what if the major injury starts bleeding from the legs? Then you go on the pants, and you still go also on the same area, same way, conceptually. So I cannot say how to tackle that. I'm a very bad medic when it comes to SOPs, just because SOPs, they work conceptually, but when real life happens, you still need to think logically on your feet and try to think, do I even need to cut all his clothes off? Not gonna say always, because still, let's say maybe we're in snow, maybe not even snow, maybe it's just like 20 degrees Celsius. That's quite cold. It's quite colder than normal body temperature. If we're gonna get our patient trauma naked, 20 degrees, yeah, we're setting them up for being hypothermic. Being in the snow, it's also a problem. So sometimes cutting less gives more benefits, because every degree of Celsius that goes down, we have approximately 10% of worsen. I'm looking for
condition.
a word. No, not a condition, but every degrees of Celsius goes down than the normal body temperature. Yeah. Our blood clotting temperature worsens.
Okay.
So
there's a 10% higher chance of getting a blood clot.
No, not blood clot. Just blood needs to clot, and clotting is like quite of a good process when you're wounded, because that's our body's natural way of just maintaining like an injury. And you need for the blood to clot normally, it has to have like 10,000 different chemical processes, but most important process is not process, just the condition is temperature. And the temperature is like a sweet spot, normal body temperature. But when the body temperature goes 1 degree Celsius below, 10% worsening of the clotting process, and then so on. I know this is really boring, but for me it was like, you need to learn this. But everybody ignores hypothermia, but hypothermia is quite important on the battlefield. Every trauma patient will be hypothermic, at least mildly, when he comes to a medical professional. So going to that into close, if you would cut off every time, always something like some units SOPs, everybody needs to be trauma naked. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. And then if yes, you will do that, at least make sure that you cover your patient back up with the remaining of the clothes. Just having something on top, even I felt better when they were covering me up. And just thinking about your good bedside manner to the patient.
That's good to know. But on this note, going back to, let's say, especially, usually the pants are the most complicated things that soldiers wear. What do you use for cutting? Do you have any issues when it comes to zippers? No, or anything? What do you use?
If you have good scissors like Raptors, they're quite expensive, but they will cut almost through everything. So not such a problem. If you buy those ones like $1, $2, $3 ones, that's gonna break. Maybe it won't break, but they're gonna be like. Any minute now. Almost.
Yeah. And
So, but the Raptors, they
golden
just
hour
fly.
minutes are just
Yeah.
slipping away.
So cheers to Raptors.
Yeah. But if I may expand on this, and it's a good thing I have you here, because this was a couple of things that I was always wondering, and they do kind of fall back on what I'm doing at the moment. Is I was always baffled, let's say, with burn injuries. We do know that there's in the battlefield there's a lot of blasts. Mostly there are puncture injuries, but this does not include exclude the burn injuries, which are quite common, at least in my opinion. If not else, you have a snuffy private snuffy grabbing the M2 barrel that is scorching hot and getting third-degree burns. But in terms of garments and garment systems, and taking into account the no melt, no drip properties, in your experience, if you had any, is there at least any difference? Or, I mean, how do you tackle this when
I mean, proper attire is important, but depends also on the area of operations where you are, because you cannot have always fire-resistant garments, let's say. Just
Definitely,
because it's just way too hot and you're not able to move. If you've been...
And I wouldn't want to have it, let's say, in Afghanistan.
If you're being driven around, yeah, so, but if you're walking around, yeah, not so much.
Probably, yeah.
But it's still, so those properties that reduce burns, yeah, quite important, because burns are, it's like one of the worst things that can happen on a larger scale. Like 4-degree burns, not such a problem because it doesn't hurt, because everything is just destroyed. Everything else, on a larger scale, we want to give patient as fast as possible as much painkillers as possible. Just because...
Wow, really?
No, it's... A lot of other pains you can ignore, but these ones, I mean, they just hit different. And also, let's say ketamine. Ketamine is really a good drug. It has a dissociative effect. And once you reverse it, usually, at least good, when you give this to a patient, you knock him out, and most of the time, not most of the time, but often, people will forget how that they got the burn. So they don't have also often...
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't have often those bad memories that cause PTSD and etc. Because our body has like a weird process. If we just suck it up, we have extreme pain. Our nerve endings can, I mean, in layman terms, has the ability to hardwire different. So we have a lot of different receptors. Some receptors are for temperature, some receptors are for just raising those hairs up. Some receptors are for pressure, pain, etc. And also for the pain, here we are, like we get burns, extremely painful, but then the nerve endings like can in layman's terms hardwire. Then they hardwire next to the hairs. So I can get just a bit of goosebumps, and my hair goes up, but because they're hardwired next to the pain receptors, I don't have pain, but I feel pain, and that shoots a message to my brain, and then every time I get a bit of goosebumps, I have the same amount of pain as getting burned. So, and this happens when we are awake. If we give a lot of drugs to our patient, correct drugs, we can mitigate that. And things things are not. They will still happen, but not so much. So that's for me. That's quite important, because it doesn't matter if I save the patient, I do a high five at the end, but if the guy will, in 2-3 years down the range or down his life, will commit suicide because he's always on pain medication, on grafts, his wife left him, he's always depressed and in pain, and I didn't do anything. I'm trying to save a life, but I want to give that person the opportunity to have a life worthwhile, not just
I understand.
Oh, perfect, you're one man
I
shopping.
saved you and that's it. Yeah.
So I mean, to have proper protection care on yourself, it's quite important. I often did not take care good of myself or my guys, and that they can wear everything they want, and that's not correct. You call me the shittiest medic I am, and most often I was a shitty medic. I try to do the best, but reality just hits different. But for burns, I'm quite anal just because I saw some really gnarly stuff, and also people that committed suicide during just because depressed, being on painkillers all the time. Yeah.
But how worse? I know I'm pressing this issue, and I do apologize, but I do want to kind of understand how worse does let's say the burn injury get if your garments are melting and dripping? Because to be honest, I never had experience with it. I never saw it, real life, that kind of thing. Do you have any experience with this?
I mean
because there's a lot of garments out there. I mean, you can buy them very cheaply. And they look nice and everything. But when it comes to those things, they're kind of shady. And
I mean, something that
never knew how this.
Just think about it. Something that just burns and falls off, or just burns or stop burning. That process is just how do you defeat how do you stop the fire? You take away the fuel or the air. I mean, just the amount of energy needs to be reduced. So if you have everything that's dripping, just imagine you're getting a burn. Now it's still drip and it's still on fire. There's still a lot of temperature on that spot. And that's causing more and more damage.
Okay, so the injury doesn't stop; it just continues.
It still continues, and it's more temperature at that spot for a lot of time or a prolonged period of time. But if it's just you're still on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's just for a couple of seconds, it's just a different. I mean. It's a reduced amount of damage and exposure to temperature. So we're trying to mitigate that. Still, damage is going to be, if you're on fire, still some things, I mean, you're still breathing, so you're going to inhale something, so your airway is going to be also a bit shot. You're going to have a hot potato voice or something like that. So that's also, it's a different animal, but we're thinking, I mean, when it comes to garments, we're more thinking of skin injuries.
Usually, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's always good to know. I mean, like I said, I never had an experience with that, and I was always wondering, is there a real benefit to this no melt, no drip thing or not? Because I know you live this world, the medical world and everything else, and especially in conjunction with everything that's got to do in the tactical industry, is what are the current, let's say, trends? I know this thing is always evolving, probably at the same speed as computer science, but what are the trends, medical, let's say, casualty treatment trends, current and maybe future ones. I mean, what is there? What's current now? What's different now in terms of medical treatments, and what do you see down along the way of changing? Because I know I started my career with a freaking how do you call it? You know, for the stomach wound, it was just a gauze and a thing to. Then we had that Israeli thing, which had already a plastic. Then we had a cloth that you filled up the wound, and I don't know. I don't even know what they have at the moment. Probably something else, but this is what I want to pick your brain about. I mean,
I would like to say that we are progressing as we are. 𝗔𝗂𝘂 is developing. I mean, the standard is that every soldier or police officer should know 𝗔𝗂𝘂 or 𝗖cie, which is like, let's say, basic first aid on the battlefield or in a high stress area. But also would say that we're not progressing because we still have a lot of very stupid mongoloids that are saying that, let's say that tampons you can use as wound packing. So if
tampons, you mean the ones that...
A lot of people are still saying that tampons, if you're shot, you can just put a tampon in and that will expand and stop the wound. It will not. I mean, if I have to explain to you how to use a tampon, like we have missed a lot of marks during your lifetime. So I shouldn't go there.
Yeah, and that's good to know, because I heard that myth about sticking tampons in your...
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have a tampon in your survival kit. It's still good for lighting a fire and some other stuff, but not even close to stopping a bleed that it's a high penetrating wound. So like people are still fighting this monster. Some people are still against tourniquets. That tourniquet, if you put,
I never heard that.
If you're putting a tourniquet on a limb, that you're gonna immediately lose the limb. I mean, tourniquets get a bad rap because sometimes you put a tourniquet on and they actually lost a limb, but just because there was such an amount of damage that the surgeon couldn't salvage that. But our lazy brain, you're thinking, wound, tourniquet bad. But still, we are not thinking a bit forward because we're too lazy. We're not saying, but even if because that logic is also flawed. Let's say we put a tourniquet on and he lost his leg. Yes, let's say it's wrong, but I'm saying yes. But nobody's even thinking, I put a tourniquet on, but I saved a life. So it's still a positive. So as much as I want to say that we're progressing in the field of trauma, battlefield medicine, we're still fighting old beasts just because a lot of stupid people are still behind the curve, and also with tampons not using tourniquets. So yeah, we still need to work on ourselves quite a lot. But also, let's say, I hate it that law enforcement doesn't have an issued tourniquet. Like a law.
Oh, you mean like across the board?
Across the board, I'm pro that everybody needs to have a tourniquet. If you're a law enforcement, you need to carry a tourniquet.
That would actually
just
be
because
smart.
you are a first responder, and I know that in Slovenia that's not happening, just because we have the bureaucracy of, oh no, that's bad. First is elevation of the limb, then it's digital pressure. Like, yeah, sure. But in a high stakes, high stressful environment, when guns are blazing, knives are flying, I would rather just throw a tourniquet on, and probably in 20 minutes I'm gonna get my casualty. to the doctor, and then doctor has a 5 kilogram, not kilogram, 5 pound brain, and he's gonna decide, he was a stupid guy, we don't need a tourniquet on, I can remove it. And he will do it. But sometimes he will do, luckily he used the tourniquet, he saved that guy's life. Yeah. How many times, I mean, not often, but 3 cases I just got from mine students that I was teaching law enforcement in Slovenia. Was teaching them how to stop the bleed and how fulfilling it is when you get a message, I saved a life today, thank you. Yeah, I was like, no, it's just, this was you, but then they were just saying that, yeah, but you taught me, I literally almost every time is the same. I didn't know what I was doing. I saw a lot of blood and I said, I'm gonna put a tourniquet high and tight, and that's basically it. So,
well, nice.
Cheers to that.
Definitely. And at the end, I do have to ask you, how does that, in everything that we talked about, especially in terms of, let's say, a life of a medic or a medical person or a first responder, how does, in all this, how much weight does your garments have in terms of your, I mean, we can discuss probably this for another hour, how good it is to have something that you don't think about and doesn't cause you any additional issues. But how important it is for a medic to have, I'm not going to say proper gear, but a gear that would benefit him. And what would be that gear? And I'm not talking about backpacks, I'm more talking about garments.
Well, to be honest, when push comes to shove...
Is there any difference?
No, when push comes to shove, when it's a high stressful environment, I'm not ever thinking about clothes. When it's a high stressful environment, things are just rolling and it's extreme stress, you're not thinking about clothes. That's irrelevant. Yeah. But
training kicks in and you just do what you want to.
But most amount of time, you're not living in a world of high stress. I mean, you're still in the fob, you're still in the base, you're still training, you're still there. If you are working a job, it doesn't matter. If I'm working a job, if you can put a pink uniform on me, I really don't care. Just because I'm a contractor, I need to do this for an amount of time, really don't care. But if you really love your job, if it's your career, if it's your calling, then it's not like civilian military life or anything like that. You're always in some kind of a, well, I'm gonna say weird mindset where you just want to be comfortable. You want to be comfortable in when you're not working and when you are working. Okay. And then if you have the equipment from the, let's say, lowest bidder, that everybody thinks that humans are like, I don't know, imps or or giants. Yeah. Like, why do I have my knees here and not here? Like when somebody is like deciding how to make garments, make it as cheap as possible, but as most uncomfortable as possible. So that's usually what military issues you. So I liked to take care of myself, and most of the time I persuaded that we got better gear, or at least just buy your own gear. And somebody says, yeah, you shouldn't buy your own gear. Yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But if you love your job, if you love your life, and if you like doing what you do, you're just gonna take care of yourself, and you're just gonna buy it. Yeah, buy one, hurt once, but then you forget.
Yeah, that's a lot of things that we all did in the military. Got our own gear one way or the other and tried to get it past our 1 stars, 2 stars, and everybody else. Well, Luka, it was really, really nice talking to you. I really appreciate you coming down here. It was very knowledgeable, at least for me. I hope all of you had a blast with us. I hope you learned something new. I definitely did. And looking forward to our next Beer 30. Stay safe, guys.
Cheers.